Hi everyone. Hope you're all going well with your gingerbread houses or your log cabins. Again, we've seen some fantastic ones on social media. I'm just slowly working on mine, just embellishing. So you can see I've done a little bit of work on it, just a little bit. I couched the twine, the baker's twine, around the door. I'm just currently sewing on the little Suffolk puffs that I made out of the red sheeting fabric. I have stitched on some of my hand-dyed rickrack and stitched on a felted wool heart, the little lace that I showed you last week, and then I cut out a felted wool roof as well. So what I'm doing, these are meant to be lollipops that are acting as like little plants. So I've cut some little felted wool plant pots. So you'll end up with one on each side. I just couched down some wool, some hand-dyed wool. So it's meant to look like lollies. On my roof, what I'm going to do is I've got some of my buttons here. I want to actually stitch down some coloured buttons like they're lollies. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do some other sort of decoration and do my window panes and stuff like that. So just thought I'd pop on and show you what I'm doing. I'm just doing the little lollipops on the side first. So just an overcast stitch or whip stitch around the edge in just a normal red sewing cotton. With the wool that I stitched down for the stems, it was just a hand-dyed knitting wool. I have no idea what ply it is. I'm not a knitter, so I don't know that stuff. And I couched it down with some hand-dyed stranded cotton, and I used all 6 strands, so it's quite chunky. Alright, so what I'll do is I will stitch down my lollipops, and then I'll do that off camera, and then I'll come back and I'll show you where I'm at. So I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so my lollipops are stitched down. Now I'm using this variegated thread, and I'm going to make my window panes just by doing back stitch. So I'll show you quickly. Okay, so just doing back stitch. I go straight up, and then I'm thinking I might go across twice. Okay, so I'll turn the video off again, and I'll come back and I'll show you my window panes stitched out. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Alright, windows are done. Next thing, I've just drawn on with my friction pen a little curve, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to couch down, this is a Steph Francis thread, SF19, and I'm going to couch this down on either side and then add some leaves like it's some greenery growing around the door. So I've got Steph Francis, this is mercerized cotton, I think that's how you say it, number 17, similar colours, so I'm going to couch it on with that so it kind of blends in a bit, and then I'm going to add some leaves. So I'm just laying I think it's a silk, this one, it's like a textured silk, laying it down on the fabric, and then for anyone that hasn't done couching before, you just do a stitch. So it looks a bit messy there. Stitch over the top. Okay, so I'll show you again. It's up to you how close you decide to have your stitches. I'm going for maybe about 4 millimeters apart, 4 or 5 millimeters apart, almost half a centimetre. And brilliant, I just pulled it out. I can put that back in, hang on. Okay, let me put that back in, back under the 2 loops. You can pull a thread through. If it was something like a wool thread, you could actually pull it through with a needle, but because this has got texture in, it's not going to go through the fabric. So I'm just couching it straight down. And it actually doesn't matter that I've got a tail, because I am going to add a leaf on that end there that's going to cover it up. Okay, so just stitching over the top, just following the curve. Now you won't see the pen line, but also if I iron my fabric, it's going to go away anyway. And look at the lovely, lovely texture. It's like it's a vine growing around the door. Okay, really simple. It doesn't take too long to do couching. You can do couching with lots of different threads. I like doing it with wool, even 6-stranded cotton. I definitely like having hand-dyed threads like these ones, so you get some good texture. Colours in your threads, not texture. And I'm all tangled. Probably should tuck that over the other side so it stops getting caught. You can use lots of strands, like not just one. If you want it to be more chunky, you could use several strands. I actually do like buying knitting wool if it's hand dyed in different colours, variegated ones, because then I can use them for couching, which looks really good. So I'm going to do a little arc over the top and around the door, and then I'll come back in a minute. I think I'm going to cut leaves out of felted wool. Alright, so I'll come back in a sec once I finish stitching this, and we'll cut out a few leaves. I'll be back in a sec. Alright, vine is all stitched out. Now this is where the advice not to throw out your scraps comes in handy. So these are my felted wool scraps, even tiny ones I keep, because eventually I might want to cut something out of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of the greens and I'm going to cut some leaves out of them. So I want to get a mix of colours. Got some dark bits, got some textured bits, more textured bits. Kind of like what I did with my my tree on my other block. I just grabbed little bits and pieces and cut out leaf shapes. So same kind of technique. All right, so it's a nice one. That's a Debbie one. Debbie from Instagram, the girl that we buy from all the time. Okay, so I'm just going to freehand cut some little leaves. Don't want them to be too big. Okay, that kind of thing. Now that scrap is probably too small. I don't think I'd get much cut out of that one. So let's get my scrap basket. Sorry, Debbie from Vintage Doll's House. I couldn't think before. I was having a mental blank. Thinking and speaking at the same time. Heaven forbid. Okay, I don't want them to be too big. I'm going to stitch them around my little vine. Just using little embroidery scissors, shaping them, cutting off bits if I don't like the shape. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the camera, cut some more, and then I'll come back and sew them down. See you in a sec. Alright, so this is my little plan. My leaves are all cut out for my vine, and I want to do them across the top here. And then I want to stitch a heart at the top of the door that goes along with the heart at the top. I've also got this lovely button that I got from Debbie again, Doll's House Vintage, which is going to go on my door like it's a wreath. And then I'll probably do some embellishing with some embroidery, like some French knots and things like that. And then finally, as I showed you before, the buttons will go along the roof in different colours. Okay, so I better get on with it. So let's start. I'll just take off all these leaves and the heart. I'll take off this side and the button and this side, and I'll start with this leaf down the bottom. So I'll use the Steph Francis green variegated thread to sew on all the leaves. I'm not going to change threads to match each leaf colour. So I like to secure the leaf first at the point. Okay, so just an overcast stitch there. And then little overcast stitches the whole way around. Hang on, I'm going to do something different. I always do this, change my mind when I'm in the middle of it. Okay, I'm going to do, instead of an overcast stitch around, just to make it a bit more interesting, I'm going to do just a running stitch up the middle to begin with, like it's the you know, the spine of the leaf. And then I think I'll just do a few other spines like on the sides, so I'll show you in a sec. Okay, so I'll just do a couple of, I could do a fly stitch if I wanted to, that kind of thing. That would work. So these are just little stitches, just giving it a little bit of detail. Okay, so you see it's got little stems through the middle. All right, so I'm going to do that with all my leaves, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. See you in a sec. All right, so all the leaves are stitched on, and I've started playing around with some of my buttons. These are just some of the ones I've got on my desk. And I'm stitching my buttons on like they're candy down the roof of the gingerbread house. So I'm doing, like, I've got these kind of colours, candy lolly colours. We call them lollies in Australia. So I'm going to stitch them all along the roof. And then the leaves are all done. And then I do want to do a little bit more embroidery, but I think I'll come back and do that tomorrow. Or maybe not tomorrow video, but in the next few days. I might work on it tomorrow or the next day, I'm not sure. And I'll show you in another video when I've finished playing around with some more embellishing. So that's what I'm going to leave you with tonight. When I come back, I will have done my buttons, and I think I'm going to do some little bits of embroidery, like I just said, a bit repetitive. So that's going to be everything for tonight. So the video's not too long, and next week is new prompt. Okay, so we'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.